I'd like to welcome everyone and say how excited we are to be back with another edition of Beyond the Noise, where we try to get past all the surface conversation and the rhetoric, and we get right to the information that hopefully will be helpful to many, and then at least give others a chance to see it in a deeper perspective. And as I always do, I have the round-faced Mexican girl with us today, young Gracie Dagnino. Grace, so it's been a minute. How you doing over there?
I'm good. Better that the Lakers are going to the Western Conference Finals.
So it seems. There's been a lot of good basketball being played too. As a matter of fact, I thought it was some pretty good football being played as far as how clean the games were over the weekend. But we're going to get a little bit into that and then go a little bit beyond or prior to the activities on the field. I am excited about who I have with me today. I met this gentleman in 1997 in August. We walked on the yard together at TCU. We were aggressive, we were green. I was skinny, he was wide as two people that I've ever seen in my life. But we managed over these past 23 years to become tremendous friends. I am talking about one of the best big man athletes that I have ever seen. As a matter of fact, he is the only person I've seen with my own eyes run a sub 5 second 40 at 300 pounds. I saw it with my own eyes. It was on a pro day, so that number is not made up. And I think he also jumped a 31. So we're talking about
33.
I'm sorry, I'm hating. We're talking about one of the best athletes you're ever going to see and one of the smartest human beings that I've ever been around. Very, very, very deep in thought. He has a very interesting perspective on a lot of things that we see today. And I understand why, because he's got his undergraduate degree in management finance at TCU, and he has two, not one, but two graduate degrees. One, he has his MBA at Minnesota, the University of Minnesota, and he has his MED at Texas Christian University. He is the father of two wonderful human beings, and he has been being put up with Miss Tara Worthing for 18 years. Give it up for my guy, Mr. Sean Worthing. What's up, brother? How we doing today?
Man, I'm excellent. Thanks for having me, Greg.
Man, I'm so glad you're here. We got ex-Houston Texan, ex-Minnesota Viking. Man, did you check any of them games out this past weekend?
No, I didn't. I'm taking a hiatus from football right now.
So you're trying to stay away from football, except when them frogs get ready.
Well, until the fall play, at that point in time, I'll reinvest in my football dynamic. But right now, I'm taking a little break.
That's what I'm talking about. So before we get into all the important stuff, you and I, alumni, we've had a chance to see this program evolve.
Yes, sir.
You are there. You work there. As a matter of fact, I'm talking to the Associate Athletic Director of Academic Services there at Texas Christian University. So you have to start with Sean and you have to finish with Sean. And he has to make sure that those kiddos walk across the stage. Am I right about that?
Most definitely. Like I said, everything from matriculation to graduation, you get it done.
Get it done from beginning to end, from soup to nuts. So with that being said, okay, and we're watching this, watching the evolution of our school. What makes you the most proud, not of the buildings and the things that you've seen, but the evolution of the athlete, the way they conduct themselves, the athletes we get there now? What is, based on our 97 1 and 10 team, to the expectations of the Frogs today? How do you feel about that? What are you most proud about that?
I would say most proud is basically seeing the return on investment. You know, anything you do and do well, you want it to be an ROI, return on investment. And you put your blood, sweat, and tears into an endeavor, and you hope that somehow, some way, that you've left your one piece of eternal sand in that bucket. And so with that being said, and I look back on this 20 plus years later, I see every piece of sand that I dropped and left right there, not alone just myself, but every other person that walked in those doors between the years of 1996 and 1998 that truly transformed that program to something of respectability. I remember being back in school, we would go back home. You probably remember this too. Yeah. I wear my TCU shirt. People are like, oh, where's TCU?
What is that? What is that?
Where is that at? You know?
Why y'all colors so fluorescent?
Yeah, you get a litany of questions that had to do with basically your school being recognized. And now you can't go anywhere in the world, not I said world, without TCU being a name that flies off the tongue and also a household product.
Wow.
I'm very proud of the fact that we took a school from obscurity to popularity, and it's maintained that popularity over the course of 2+ decades.
Indeed.
And so that's the crux of it right there.
Wow. Let me ask you this, man. What do you think was the catalyst? When do you think we uprooted and replanted? What year do you think it started that brought this tree or this, these branches out that we see on a regular basis?
Well, I would say actually, you were wrong earlier. We met in December actually on our recruiting trip.
We sure did.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we did.
I think December is when it happened. When we were sitting at the table ordering omelets that next morning.
I remember that. Yeah.
Remember, every person on that team that became a player of value or of note was on that recruiting trip.
We were on that same trip.
You're right.
Yep.
And so the intersection happened right then and there. We didn't even know it was conspiring to create greatness in that moment in December on our recruiting trip. And then basically once we got there, it all just sort of feathered together. Now I knew we were going to be good initially, but we sucked pretty bad.
Terrible.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Deplorable even.
We were the worst.
At the beginning.
We were babies though, man. If you look at that 97 all of us played.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we ended up being done in forward. Like all of us got our stripes and hard lessons early.
Yes, sir.
So I think it started in '98, before we played the Sun Bowl. The interviews the day before, when they literally, why are we showing up? Basically, that you guys were playing against this powerhouse, this, and they got this, and these linemen, these receivers, and they wouldn't let me talk because I was like, man, we got good DBs too. Like, However, I knew then, because we knew then, like, man, we're on the beginning of something that's real. Like, I don't think people really understand what's about to happen. And then I think that was literally the seed. I think we uprooted that style of play that people had not even known into the defensive expectations that you see today.
Yeah, I think, for the most part, people understand winning is a culture. And it takes time for that culture to evolve and gel together. Winning doesn't just happen because you got better players or you did some great job of calling plays. It's about the culture that you build and that culture reverberating from the top to the bottom. And it takes time for that echo chamber to keep bouncing things back. The wording you use, the verbiage you use, the tactics that you have all start to basically coalesce into something that's called winning. And it took, 98, to get that done, a little bit of 99, and then 2000 it all came together. Except for one game.
Yeah.
There's a lot
you
of
were
people
missing quite a few pieces.
There's a lot of people I blame for that one game.
Hey,
Chief among them is Mr. Gray Walls.
I wasn't even playing, man.
That's the crux of it right
All
there.
Right,
that's why I blame you.
We're talking
we got beat on a last minute pass. If Gray would have been there, we wouldn't have been beat. But nevertheless, he let us down. We fell from all the way from the Fiesta Bowl to the Mobile Bowl.
That we had to go back to. That was the worst.
That was terrible.
That was the absolute worst.
Horrible.
But, which leads me to this. You should be grateful for that. Just shut up and play.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you this, man, because you have 3 degrees, and you played at the highest level. I mean, you played with the Vikings, you played with Houston, and you were a scholar as a professional athlete. Mm-hmm. When you see those things, when you see athletes intelligently, respectfully, I don't care. I mean, I'm watching this, and regardless if we agree or disagree. How does it make you feel to see grown-ups, people our age or people older, who your job is entertain us, you shut up and play, you don't voice your politics on this stage? What does that actually mean to you based in your own intelligence and your high-level play?
What it tells me, basically, they bought and paid for your athleticism. They bought and paid for your opportunity to show up on a field of endeavor, not to speak. And so basically what they're doing is discounting the whole person and only accounting for the part of the person that they want to see. And I think, when you hear the shut up and dribble or the shut up and play type dynamic coming out, it's more about basically what they value in that moment. Because honestly, we all value different things. But for them, they value the athletic. They don't care about anything else. All other things to that are superfluous. And so when you're hearing that, what you're hearing is people telling you what they value about you.
How does that, when we're talking about kids, because I know how that would make me feel at my age today, but we're looking at kids who have built up the courage basically and to avoid, like, hey, look, we understand that we're the show pony. We understand that the ball moves and we move it, but we also understand this heat we're going to take from our elders or from people that are our fans or people that are watching us. How do you relay that message to those youngsters that your voice it needs to be heard and stay intelligent. How do you relay that without the division within the locker room because of people's own feelings or their own beliefs?
I think you got to explore your true self. And I tell people all the time, we all, if you're any decent kind of athlete, you segmented your life into different compartments. We talked about this beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this person that is, a untamed animal on the field. But also there should be 2 to 3 other parts of you that you find. There's the intelligent party that goes to school, that goes to class. And then the social part of you that, loves people and loves others and allows you to give back. And so all 3 of those dynamics converge at the point in which you're most seen, which is on the football field or basketball court, if you will. And so with that, we challenge them to basically be unique and true to all themselves, their total selves, versus just the part that people choose to see or pay to see. And so with that part has political boundaries, it has economical boundaries, it has everything. All these things now intersect on that person versus intersecting in those different areas. And those all things have to collide into one space. And that space is sometimes the most visible space, and that's what people don't want to see. So I ask them to be true to themselves, not just true to an ideal, and also not to be true to yourself, but do the research to back things up. Because honestly, when things go left, your first answer can't be fisticuffs. When you run out of intelligence, you run into anger.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people to keep it still intelligence, like what more, what's next, so that basically you can stave off frustration and then also change minds. Minds and hearts are not changed through revolutionary acts of violence. They're changed through basically having their minds be challenged and to be authoritative in a sense of basically, here's my view, respect my view, and then here's your view, and here's how these things can live together or how they decide to depart from each other.
Wow, I'm here with Sean Worthing. I told you he is a very, very bright mind. So I have to ask you, and then we're gonna go to our audience and ask some questions. So I have to ask you this: if we're taking that view and that standpoint, and we have to look within and look to ourselves for those answers, but we're not getting the problems from within. We feel good about the movement that we're making. It's the problems without from the people around us that hold titles. So it's very confusing if me as a quarterback of a team says, I feel this way about this, so we're not going to do this, and everybody dives on me and I'm just a spoiled brat, a spoiled kid, I need to shut up and play. But if the coach says the same thing that I just said, nobody says anything. So we're taught, stand up for yourself, be a man, stand on your values. But the moment we do those things, we're berated by the crowd of people who tried to teach us that lesson. And then when I say we, I'm talking about we the people, because I'm watching these things occur on a regular basis. So you aren't viewed like that. Nobody knows until you tell people you're the associate AD of academic services. How do you think you're seen? Because you know how you were seen on Sundays, you just explained and articulated it, you needed to just shut up and play. But how does that run into your current job title off the field? Because you haven't been on the field in 20 years, bro.
In a long time. I would say this, and I'm going to sort of work my way backwards on your question, but the human mind likes to fall in love with its own ideas. And that's a very, very big thing. And that idea is social construction. These things you're talking about, all socially constructed by people and not truly by the position or the authority position that it bestows upon them. So you talked about what a student athlete is. That's a socially constructed. What an athlete is socially constructed, because that's always in the ebb and flow category. It's going to always be something more, something less than it was in the very moment, but it's always evolving. And basically what we have right now are a bunch of social constructions that are colliding with basically the expectations of said constructions. And so what you have is, people falling outside the framework of what they choose to be acceptable, and that's causing the conflict. And I think that's the one thing that really has to be explored, is basically the expectation that we have based on the construction that we put together, or our society has put together for what we're supposed to be in the framework. And you said, what about me? Until you talk to me, you can take me in and say, okay, you can reduce me down to what the visible things are. I am a large African American male. Now, from that point in time, you can leave it at that, or you can choose to sit down and have a conversation with me and see I'm so much more. And I think James Baldwin said it best: "You are what time, history, and circumstance have made you. Certainly you are, but we're also so much more." And so that's the thing. We got to get beyond the titles and social constructions that we put forth, and you really get into basically what we are going to do in terms of allowing people's relationships to come forth, allowing people's intelligence to come forth, allowing them avenues to be more than what is expected from them based on simply a title.
I think the way that goes is because people who hold those titles, we expect them to have direct, precise, correct answers all the time. And then we take that and we project that out regardless of whether they are competent or not, regardless in this country, because I'm watching this, it's one of those things to where it's not, the standards don't allow you the title, it's the title allow you the excuse of dismissing the standards. And I'm having a hard time with that. So let's use some hard examples, okay? So, Penn State, right? For years, Jerry Sandusky got away with literally raping kids, and he has been tried and convicted and found.
Yes.
But his title allowed other people to dance around that without holding him to the standards of the title. Where does that come from, in your opinion?
Now, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit. I don't think it was the title. It was the power.
But the power comes from, because if he was just random Sandusky guy, but as coach or associate head coach.
So I think there's three things at play there.
Okay.
One, you have power, you have positions, and you have authority. So you can interchange position with title if you want to.
Right.
But let's we were just talking about a teacher earlier. Let's talk about the teaching profession. Okay, teachers always had the same authority. Always. They've always had the same title. But their power has shifted and changed over the years. When we were young bucks, the worst thing that happens, your teacher called home.
Oh,
You
yes,
knew
indeed.
you were gonna get taxed
every time, no matter
every time,
what you
no
did
matter
or didn't
what you
do.
yeah, didn't matter. If that teacher called home, they're gonna be smoke in your city every single time. Now, that same teacher calls home to this kid. The parents are arguing with the teacher, taking the kid's word, and basically what we've done, the authority has not changed. They still have the authority to grade. It's the power that's changed because the social construction of power has changed because the parents who are raising these kids now don't see the teacher as being an honorable and respected profession anymore. And so that's what you have. The social construct of power has shifted. And so you talk about a Jerry Sandusky, if you will, the power, he's always had the same authority. He's always had the same title. But what happened was we won a national championship in Penn State. We started to do all these things. We started recruiting all these athletes. We're a Big Ten powerhouse. And so this power, we're drunk off of it. And so people now wield it and give away their authority, they give away their consciousness, and they give away their civility to power. And that's what happened there. There was a power dynamic that shifted that allowed for malfeasance to happen and become a norm and became the standard for Penn State.
So their standard was based in their actions. It wasn't based in the listed standards of what the title should be.
By no means.
So that leads me to another one. If we're talking about situations we know of and that we can pull up and prove, let's talk about Baylor. Had Baylor been a mediocre or less than mediocre team as they were in the past, then that culture probably never would have been built because their ability to win and them becoming a Big 12 powerhouse allowed them the power to abuse the authority, is what you're saying.
Since I'm a Big 12 member, I'm gonna sort of refrain from
beating up on the outside of that.
But I will say this much, and I think the quote I gave you the other day, your quote actually, I don't know where you got it from. Rules without consequences are mere suggestions.
Mere suggestions.
And so when you have these rules out there, there's no punishment and there's no consequence, then eventually it's going to be a suggestion. And there was something very powerful. It's our rookie year at the rookie convention. He said, and there's this dude that does this great work. I can't remember the guy's name, but there's three things always in play. There are choices, decisions, and consequences, always in play. And we always have a choice. We have to ponder that decision and then subsequently live with the consequences, positive or negative, from that point in time. And when we lose that last thing, when we lose that X plus Y equals Z, we lose a very big variable in there, the consequences. So basically, without the consequences, without the end result, the equation makes no sense. It's missing something. And what is missing is us.
Justice.
Yes.
Justice is the equalizer, because justice shows the consequence for proved actions.
Yes, sir.
And with that, going into that, and I'm here with Sean Worthing, and I think this is a great conversation, and I want to get into this. I want people to answer this question. What do you actually think the protest is about? What are people protesting? Not you yet, but ask the crowd, what is the protest about? Is it about ending racism? Is it about equality? What do you think it's about? Because I did a little bit of thinking and I put a web together and it all comes back to one space. With that being said, what is this? What are the protests about? Why are these professional athletes refusing to take course? You were a professional athlete and you deal in the education and the understanding of young people, young leaders, all of these other things. And it's hard to take all of the good things in your life and put them out there for the world to pick through and destroy. So, what do you think it's about for them?
I think it's about what it's always been about. We are evolving as a country yet again. We are evolving as a citizenry yet again. And what we are, evolution moves one direction, it always moves forward. And the evolutionary process is very violent, it is deadly. It means the very end of a species, if you will, for others to continue to move forward. And what's dying here is the previous encapsulation of what it meant to be less than in America. Is what I believe is dying here. And it's going to be a slow.
What does that mean? Like, give me some info on that. So, the direction you're going is we're watching the root. We're watching oppression be uprooted. We're watching.
I don't know.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
So I'm asking, like, what do you mean by this violent change in evolution?
Meaning that basically what we decided was permissible in the past for how people were going to be treated, how people were going to be classified, and how people were going to be promoted in life.
We changed the standard.
It's now changing. And it's evolving in front of us, and it's painful for a lot of people to see. Very painful, because it means, there's this place it's in Reese Jones Hall at TCU, and you can look at the world map, and it shows the population explosion that's about to happen, and it's showing you how things are evolving and changing. And it's a very painful dynamic to really look at, because the world will not be the world we see today 100 years from now. But those who have power currently want the world to reside exactly in the place that it is, because that's where they're most powerful. Change, like I said, I think I'll even go away from change right now. But what I really want to sort of put forth is that when you start looking at equality, equality is oppression to those who've been in privilege.
Yeah, because that means that the structure has changed, and now you have a change.
No, the structure's changed, meaning that basically, if you're in privilege, here's equality. You got to take a step down. You're losing. Structure. You're losing. You're giving away something at that juncture. Yeah. And so for them, they are losing everything. And that's the thing people are feeling. When you come down to a state of equality, when you've always been on top, you are losing and giving up everything that you hold sacred. And it's a lose-win for the others. For them, they're losing something so that you can win, and that's not acceptable for anybody. And I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm not angry about it. It's I can be angry all I want to, but also too, this is the idea of dynamics being played out in the real world.
So basically, let's take a step back and see how the evolution from slavery to Jim Crow was aggressively violent, but it was necessary in the fact that you went from owning your property to your property having value outside of you, because slaves were property, they weren't human. So you go from that, and that makes you now equal. We can't be that. We have to reset the structure the way it was. We have to get back to the traditional way. So when that starts changing, because that's why they're called movements, basically.
Yes, and you it's a great example. But you see it again, every time it was a violent level up. Back to there. So you went from slavery to Jim Crow, and then Jim Crow to Plessy versus Ferguson. Then you had civil rights happen again. Yeah. All that went on, and then you've had this disappearance of gangs stuff in the 80s that came on, and then now you have this other movement that's happening right now. So every time it is met with disdain, it's met with violence, it's met with a culture clash that happens out for the public to see. But the thing is, we're just now seeing it live and in 3D, and which we've never done before.
Right.
We've never. I mean, we have the movement caught in
Right.
pictures
Footage
and some
and
film
pictures,
here or
yeah.
there, but never did we have 360 degrees of coverage on people's disdain. And and I think I hate to quote Martin Luther King, everybody does, but the riot is the voice of the unheard. And I think that truly is what we're experiencing now. The unheard are speaking and speaking very loud.
And we're covering our ears because it's painful to hear, just like you're saying. Because, I mean, if you think about it, if you're a good person,
yes,
it's hard to hear what you're saying conceptually. Because it's easy for me to go, well, I don't see you like that, Sean, because I see Sean. And
yes,
this is the thing I'm trying to get people to hear. Well, we have to, empathy by definition is to be able to see a person's view, whether you agree or disagree, and understand based in their experience where they're coming from. We're spending so much time attaching to the thing that agrees with us. So I get what you're saying. So how do we press harder or get the outcome that people are looking for as where it doesn't feel like a loss? Because here's the deal. I don't think we're fighting for equality. I don't think we should fight for equality, but I'll explain that shortly.
Okay.
Gracie, what do you see as any answers on?
Yeah, quite a few answers.
Okay.
Earlier you guys talked about the shift in power, and the titles haven't changed, but who holds the power has changed. Jack Brown commented, "I see the same when it comes to ministry. 30 years ago, ministers were respected by nearly everyone. Now the social construct has changed because of the behaviors of a certain few. Now almost no one trusts ministers. Title has not changed, but the power has."
I wanna ask Jack, and I love Jack. I think Jack is awesome. Shout out to Jack and his son Dalton. Dalton's big time big kid, good football player, great dude. Jack, do you think that it is because of the actions of a certain few, or that the actions of the people holding the title is now being caught or seen or being uncovered? And that's what I think. I don't think it's a certain few of any in this power construct, because we take these one issue and we fight hard, not really understanding that we're fighting an ideal that doesn't necessarily seem real for a lot of people. It's ideally correct to say, well, Sean, if you just do what they ask you to do, you ain't got nothing to worry about. That is ideally correct until you've seen it not work 500 times and you've seen it happen to you 6 times, right?
Amen.
So,
and to Jack's point, I will say this much: the authority of the position of pastor has not changed. And what I mean by authority is the right to give orders, the right to to make decisions and enforce compliance if need be, has not changed in the church. But what has happened is basically the reverence of that position has been forever watered down. The stark reverence we used to have for the minister, not saying that was minister such and such, that held a certain reverence and context in the social construct that we had.
Almost like on a pedestal.
Yes, most definitely. And it's completely changed, because not just because of the one or two actions, but because honestly, I think our society is becoming less spiritual, in general. And less dependent on the spiritual to make day-to-day decisions. We're dependent on phones, computers. We're dependent on metrics. We're measuring everything.
yeah, and the ideal of the spiritual, just like you're saying.
I think, like I said, with everything, religion is, and I'll tell you this, Sister Jack, religion has failed to evolve with its people, its constituents. So religion no longer serves the constituents the way it should be, because the constituents have evolved, but religion hasn't. It wants to stay in this archaic old realm.
Why do you think that is?
Because honestly, our blueprint for religion is about 3,000 years old.
I think it's because religion is about being more about believing what you're told, not discovering what to believe. And because it's what you're talking about is the thing that applies pressure the most is questions. How do we do that? What do we do about that? It's when you're told, most people are waiting to talk because they got something to tell you.
So basically, when you don't shut up and dribble.
Exactly. When you why I gotta shut up and dribble? Why can't I ask a question? Here comes the heat, because now questions bring about change. You know, I read somewhere that subconsciously, if somebody directs a question in your area, subconsciously, you're going to look for the answer. Or you'll hold the answer without speaking the answer. There's nothing you can do about it. That's why people get so frustrated with questions, or they feel questioned sometimes, because not knowing is the most uncomfortable feeling in any situation. If you don't know to play, you hoping you're right or wrong. Not know, I don't know how to swim, I don't want to get in the water. Not knowing is the worst thing you can be. So in all that getting, get understanding. But if you know and other people don't understand, you hold the cards. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree. I mean, I think this is truly where things are going to stay at. I mean, we've created a standard for most things, and the standard is the level of quality that we now accept for this one thing. But what we are failing in, what we have, is a misconception of expectations now.
Yes.
And basically, the toxic relationship between standard and expectations causes a bunch of frustration.
How do we get to a point of understanding and commonality in your space in the school? Because I can only imagine what those kids are going through.
Yes.
I mean, really, man, like, we didn't have those issues, and we could lean and rely on each other. When we had a problem, we could work through the problem. In today's world, these kids, they're spinning around with really limited people to turn to. How do you help them understand that they are more than shut up and dribble, or we just want to see you play, or your voice matters when I say it matters?
I think part of that is, here's the thing, we've taught them their whole life their voice matters. Because unlike us, we didn't have social media, we didn't have platforms to reinforce it, so we had the disconnect from home. Me from San Antonio, Texas, you from Opeka, Mississippi.
Right on.
We had to disconnect from those places and then reconnect here in Fort Worth.
Absolutely.
Whereas with these individuals, they don't ever have to disconnect from home. Home is brought with them via their cell phone. And what we've done, their whole recruiting process, their whole maturation of becoming who they are, we told them their voice matters. Every time they tweet, we like it, we retweet it. Every time they post on Instagram, we double click it. We put them hearts on there, right? And then we tell them, and all that. Now, when you do something that's outside the framework of what we want you to do, shut your butt up. Sit your butt down and don't be heard. And so that thing, the message we're giving them is called basically communication confusion. We're confusing the communication there.
So it's like this example, basically.
Yes.
Let's say you had the grown folks, they party, and the young folks, they got their cooler. You know how it is in the country.
Yes, sir.
So it's funny, everybody having a good time, grown folks, and then the 6-year-old kid says a cuss word. Everybody starts laughing and whatnot, and then somebody might walk past and go, "Hey, don't be letting that kid cuss like that." So the kid said cuss word, everybody laughing, and it's a good time. Kid goes to school, says the same cuss word, and gets in trouble. And then when they get told on, the same person that was laughing is like, you can't do that. Is that basically what you're saying about how we're going about handling the conversations of these kids? Or of each other, as a matter of fact?
Most definitely. I think we truly have really started to, I don't think we know how to live in a world to where so much of ourselves is no longer available to be hidden. And basically, back in the day, you lived your life in public, you lived your life at home. Now, those two things,
they run together.
They run together.
So it takes away from your ability to build your own pillars of things that you stand on, because the platform you have, regardless of how you built it, people decide whether you can keep it, is what it sounds like.
You keep it, and basically, if you're
what you can put on it.
What you can put on it, but not only that, if you're living up to the standard that they put forth for that pillar, because now they get to watch it 24/7, live that way. To where back in the day, you could basically be this one person 8 hours a day at your job, go home, be a totally different person, and no one ever cared. Now, we know that basically what you do in your job, what you do at home, and what you do in your free time are all converging on the same place, which is basically our opinion of you.
And so it doesn't, which leads me to this. I asked a question about leadership and what the traits were. I asked, it was like 3 traits, that all leaders. I didn't say good. I was like, what do you think the traits of leaders should have? And we discussed this before. What you had an amazing take on it, and we agreed. What do you think are the traits of a leader?
And as we talked about previously, I said the number one trait was ability to create and convey a vision.
Create and convey a vision.
Is the number one thing a leader
Great,
should
so
be able
put
to
that
do.
down. Our guest, Sean Worthing, says 3 things he thinks you get from a, I'm excited about this, is create and convey a vision. What else you got?
Yes. So I think that's the most important thing. I think more than anything, that has to be able to be able to, then he has to be able to sell that vision.
Sell that vision.
So basically now you got to be willing and able to go out there into the streets and hustle your vision at a grander scale. And the last thing you got to do is recruit individuals to be able to basically make your vision turn into action. And those are the 3 things I believe are the most important thing that a leader can do. And here's the difference. I tell people always get into these arguments about leaders and managers. Both are necessary. Both are very necessary. Because a leader, I tell people all the time, a leader can get you to run through a brick wall, but they can't get you to the brick wall.
The manager shows you how to get to the brick wall.
The manager shows you how to get to the brick wall so you can run through it.
Mm-hmm.
The manager ain't gonna get you to run through it. You're gonna work around it. You're gonna try to go over it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna run through it for the manager, but they can get you there. The leader's gonna get you to want you to go bust your head wide open, running through this brick wall,
and feel good about your decision.
And feel great about your decision
Mm-hmm.
in doing so because they have that kind of connection to the vision. They can sell you, basically, the thing is they can sell you your vision better than you can sell your own vision.
And there you go. Because that idealism that we live in, it supersedes the standard of what we think a leader should be. I think that a lot of people on my page had some tremendous answers, man. Integrity, courage, have to be honest, have to be willing to listen. And look at the people that we have in leadership roles that we watch on a regular basis from all over the place. They're not very empathetic. They don't have a lot of compassion. I've actually seen people in leadership roles not listen. So that's not what it takes. I think it's 3 parts of being a leader. Number 1, you have to have a message, a vision. Just like you said, it's got to be something that I can get other people to see and see it the way I see it. Number 2, I got to get people to follow. I ain't leading nothing nowhere if ain't nobody following me. And then number 3, those followers need to be able to get other people to understand how important we all think this is.
Well, gee, I call that intellectual. You just hijacked mine. That's basically my intellectual property you just stole and just reworded it. That's not okay.
Well, I'm just telling you, because I'm going to lead with your words. And I know what you're talking about. I might not have any integrity. As a matter of fact, I might steal your song and sing it and make other people think it's mine and follow me to the promised land. There's no integrity in that. So when will we get, I think it's important we get out of the ideals and start setting some standards. In your job, in your position, you are responsible for the academic well-being of all of those student athletes. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
How does Sean deal with the personal as well as the business or the transactional part of your business or your job? Because you got the inside track, the coaches, can I get tickets, can I get this, can I do that? How do you split those hairs?
Well, honestly, I try not to. I think, I understand that we bring our whole unique self to the equation. And I don't get to basically not be who I am in any space that I am. I had to tamp down certain elements of myself. I think we are, I think one of the things I always joke around and say, I am the embodiment of the nerd and the thug in me. And the nerd is great. I love my nerd. Loves to curl up, read a great book, loves to watch podcasts, loves to listen, learn things on YouTube. But then the thug in me is the one that basically makes me it keeps me hungry, keeps me growing. When my feet hit the ground, it tells me I need to get up and get moving every single day. And so both of those 2 things are always at war with each other, but also pushing each other for greater heights. And I think most people want to basically depress what makes them thirsty and makes them hungry, versus basically tapping into what is sometimes carnal, but also too necessary for your very survival. And I think as we look at those 2 things, I don't ever want to suppress the one or the other, but I also want to find a way for them to live in a beautiful marriage of helpfulness for me, from a self dynamic. So how do I do that? How do I balance that? Is the word no. No is not a curse word. It's only a 2-letter word, by the way. And not only is it not a curse word, it's an acceptable answer for questions, and it's the best answer I can give you sometimes. Some people are so used to always hearing maybe or let me try.
Gotta be right.
They want you to lie to them. People want to be lied to. They'd rather you lie to them and tell them the truth. Like, no, I'm not about to do this. Versus being like, oh, let me try and see, and never call you back and be like, I couldn't get it done. So the answer is no, because some things are transactional, and you are right. In a transactional business, no and yes should be acceptable answers. In a transformational business, no and yes may not always fit.
That's the end. That's the be all end all to get to the stuff in the middle. So we got to live here, and Kenny got to ask for a few extra minutes because he just went to. We got plenty of time, but I just want to live here for a second.
Yes, sir.
You said something that is powerful because we are taught to suppress. I'm speaking specifically for me because that we all, a lot of my friends, we have that monster. That monster don't ever go away. I don't care what anybody says. That dog is necessary, and some of us understand how to keep it under control. Some of us suppress it, and it manifests itself in different ways. So my question for you is this: we're talking about evolution, right? When did you notice that you could separate and use the two? Remember, I went to school with you. We ran on anger, and anybody of my homeboys that's listening that played, we might have been the angriest group of cats ever. Offensive linemen, defensive cats. Our energy was fueled by rage and anger. I don't even know why we were so mad. But I talked to a lot of you guys, and we still mad. Some of us suppress it, and some of us have learned how to channel it. When did you realize? Because I think this is good for cats coming out of the league. That you could actually use those, just not the same way. When did you start evolving that way?
I think really my freshman year.
Really?
I didn't understand it in college. I didn't high school at least. But my freshman year, I started to. When I was sitting in the chemistry class my freshman year, and I was in there by myself, of course. And and I was talking to our professor afterwards, and realizing that I liked this part of me. I liked the part of me that didn't have to always be aggressive. I didn't always have to be competing. Didn't always have to be. That could sit back and say, I don't know. I need to learn. I like the part of me that said, okay, this person has something to teach me that's going to help me develop into a better person. So I need to be in the role of the student and not be in the role of the aggressor. And I think you have to learn to accept the fact that when you are in a place of learning, sometimes you must be I'm not a big person on being humble. I think humble has a lot of negative connotations, but being modest enough to know that you are in a place of learning versus a place of earning. And I think that's where I was comfortable learning that I was deficient in my knowledge base. And I had, in all things, I had to seek the knowledge first. Therefore, I could use that knowledge to build a better foundation for myself. And I figured out by my freshman year that I had to be able to tap into both. But also, too, understanding that same mentality, that same carnal rage that I had in me is what got me up at 8 o'clock in the morning to go to these classes that made me want to stay up late and study accounting and do the things I needed to do. And and have the conversations I needed to have to take the time frame to say, yeah, you know what? While other people, getting kicked out of school behind playing Sega Genesis and PlayStation 1, you getting kicked out of school with 16-bit graphics. I, on the hand, are going to walk past your dorm room, knock on your door, and tell you, hey, I'm heading to class. If you choose not to go, you choose not to go. But basically, the thing is, people always say, this thing that rage is a bad thing. We've given rage a bad name because of how people have used rage in a negative connotation
against others.
Others. But the rage against oneself, meaning the fight that we have to leave obscurity, to leave the average realm, is a terrible battle that must be fought on a daily basis. Leaving the realm of average is a hard fight. You have to fight against your very nature to be comfortable. Being uncomfortable is a part of basically being great. And with that being said, you have to fight on a daily basis, and that rage is necessary to get past the threshold of the door. And once you get past the threshold, then you get past the next point that keeps you and propels you moving forward. And it's that perpetual battle that keeps you going. And the nerd now informs the rage how to be better directed. And that's why I say that both are necessary and both are required for you to grow. And when you lose that is when you lose your ability to change and grow. And I think I never want to lose my rage because it's properly directed, it's properly measured, And last but not least, it's absolutely necessary for my continued growth and maturation.
How did you find that equal ground? For example, um, I just learned probably about 3 years ago that I could actually use anger because once I would always say the same thing that brought me success brought me to failure.
Yes.
Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. I never fold them, and I'm now learning. Hey, it's okay to fold them. It's okay to pull back. So now I can direct this pit bull in the right way. How do you help find that equal balance? For me, I didn't have the equal balance because I was missing all of the things happening for me trying to get to a spot that probably wasn't for me. You know, when you're chasing a dream or you're chasing a bag or you're chasing that one thing, you know, maybe you can jog to the spot and pick up the things you need to, when you get there, you can actually operate. I didn't do that. I was trying to get there. When I got there, what do? Oh, now I got to fall all the way back down and continue to miss the blessings that I missed. It sounds like you had an understanding of I can actually use this not just for good, but as an everyday weapon to make sense for the things that I'm going after. Help me.
Powerful, G. I think what you said was powerful. We end up on the wrong path so often because the cost of getting back on the right path is too much to cost. It costs too much to do it.
Yeah.
And it's easier to stay on this path right here. Like, you know, James Baldwin says, it's easier to cry than it is to change. We love to stay on the wrong path because the cost of getting back on the right path, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. And we stay there and we keep going until we're either forced out of that path or forced to quit altogether. I think, you know, what helps you recognize that is basically, you know, being able to say, you know, I think, you know, aggression is great. It's great.
Absolutely.
Until it takes you past your mark. Until it pushes you so far beyond your mark that you now have lost perspective of where you're supposed to be.
It becomes sin because you missed the mark.
Exactly. And so aggressively pursue your mark, but then know where to stop, to recalculate and reprise your attack so you can then move again. Because my aim is to get to Arlington. You know, I need to drive from my house. I need to drive southeast. But if I'm aggressive riding down the highway, I'm gonna miss my exit. Then now, what I'm doing now is redoubling my effort to get back to the same place in the first place.
Be fast, but don't rush.
Exactly. You got to do it, and I think that's the whole thing. Aggression has its place, but also too must be properly policy tailored to fit the need that you have in the moment. That's what most people think about. They just want to basically, you know what? And I hate to use the word weapons because I think people can misconstrue that, but there's a lot of weapons or tools that are in your proverbial toolbox that you have. You know, to every solution or every problem I had, I took my hammer. You know,
I'm just banging holes.
I'm banging holes. I have a screwdriver. I have a saw. I have different tools for different occasions because everything requires a different measure of skill, ability, but also to know-how. And that's why I need to basically find it. And I think far too often, especially in the athletic dynamic, we rely on one thing and one thing only, is our ability to be bigger, faster, and stronger than our opponent versus being smarter and more strategic.
So let me ask you, good night, that's fantastic. I want everybody to start thinking about questions that you want to ask. Sean, I want you to ask him because as you can see, his vocabulary is ridiculous. I want you to think about this for me, brother. So we're watching these games and nobody in the stands. And I had a good conversation about fans and, you know, how players get up. I said, what you got to understand about players is this. Competitors, we compete. See, I know a lot of people that say, well, I'm a competitor. Well, you just don't want to be embarrassed in front of people, so you're going to try hard in that moment. But competitors get excited about the scrimmage on Saturday with nobody in the stands. Competitors get excited about being challenged to one-on-one. Do you think that with the absence of the distractions from the crowd, that the quality of play can get better based in the ability to focus on the craft, especially at that young age? What do you think about that? Or do you think the crowd is necessary for the quality, not just the advantages?
I hate to say this, but in this world, in this dynamic, the answer would be no. And the reason I say that is because the athlete of the moment is driven based on
The energy of the moment.
the energy of the now and the energy of the proverbial feedback loop that happens through social media, the pictures and things, the crowd, the roar,
Not
the celebration,
pride of the crowd.
and not the pride of the crowd.
Gratification.
You know, because the product, like I said, that's why tackling is so poor these days. Because it's not about the
It's
pride
not
of the
pride.
crowd.
Yeah.
It's about the moment, and in that moment, make sure I have the big hit, I had the big play, versus securing
Get
the
him on the
tackle
ground.
and getting that person on the ground. That's no longer proverbially sexy, you know, in this regard, because it didn't look good, it didn't happen, and I think that's what's going to change, or that's what's going to impact these games. Like I heard one person say that it was like playing a pee-wee game. Well, great, you know, whatever it may be, you know, you got for one moment in time, for one extra moment in time, you got to work your craft. Because like for people like myself and yourself on the other side of this equation, what would you give for one more opportunity? Now we couldn't do anything with the opportunity these
Now,
days.
blow these calves and Achilles so bad.
Wide open.
But you're going to get all of it the right way.
The right way. And the thing is, that's the idea, and I said again, that's the evolution of the game too, and where it's gone. And so I think, I don't think this crowd is going to impact this crowd differently, and hopefully it impacts them in a better way, to be more sober in their thoughts, to be more calculated,
understanding of the work they're doing,
more calculated in their approach, and then become more finite in their preparation.
Would you say that's why, like, and this is from mouths of kids that come in, like, why the athletes during this period from middle school and high school felt a little bit lost during this entire ban, and having the motivation to want to do the additional things outside of what is expected of them. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And I think there's an old saying, you know, basically everyone understands your what. Very few understand your how, and even less understand your why. And for what we have here is a problem with why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? The kids didn't understand why they were doing it. They were doing it for the what, which was the likes. They were doing it for the recognition. They were doing it for the fame, if you will, for lack of a better term, that came along with being a progressive and good athlete. And so with that being said, when they lost their what, their why was connected directly to it. And therefore it basically folded on top of them. The proverbial walls folded in, because at the very core what they were doing was now absent. But I will tell you this much: this season and the next 2 to 3 seasons are going to be led by the individuals whose why was connected to their drive, connected to basically to a bigger mission, vision, and values. Because those ones are going to be prepared. They're going to dominate on the field of their field of endeavor, and basically have the mental advantage over everyone else who's out there for the likes. It's a great opportunity for the average guy.
Great opportunity
For the average guy.
Joe, because what you're saying is, it sounds like not everybody, but many have fallen. They think they love the opportunity of the sport, but they love the result. They don't really love the play. They love the attention the play brings. See, I love the baseball, man. Like, I could play baseball in the backyard by myself or with 1,000 people for the love. And because of that, I was good, and it brought about these things that made me feel good. But it was the love. And what it sounds like you're saying is it's the love of the end result. But if that's with that high comes that low. With that gain is serious pain, because now you've given the world the opportunity to weigh in, and they may not be as intelligent as you in certain arenas, which leads me to this part. With your educational background and the depth of your intelligence, I feel like today's society has a complete disregard of factual evidence. I'm talking about us holistically, inclusion of experience, and just we call anything we don't agree with fake propaganda or things of that nature. How do you construct healthy conversations to bring about change without letting that gorilla out, letting that dog out?
Well, I understand this. At the end of my understanding is the beginning of someone else's. I know that I am well versed in several different areas, but at some point in time, I had to become a broker versus a doer. Meaning that it's my job to connect myself or others to somebody else who's better at this and proficient at this area in their lives more than I am. And that's the whole being about being modest again. Being modest in who I am, what I am, and understanding basically the eve and the crest of my own abilities, and being fine with that. And I think the problem we have with most of these things, people are not modest enough to understand that their identity and what they base their identity on is being foreclosed on.
So that brings me to our earlier question. What are the protests about?
Okay, so the answers that were given here disappeared. But someone put injustice. Then we also had Kalandra put that. I'm trying to find her answer. That the privilege is going away. And then that for the athletes, it's a reality check. That no matter how much money they are making, that they're still not receiving the same respect, still being told things like to shut up and dribble.
And I think to encapsulate everything you just said, it's change, evolution is what this whole thing's about. It's change happening to us while we are still living in the moment that we believe is ours.
And you know what else? I realize that it makes us look at what we actually have been holding in regard as the standard. Many of these people who are blatantly disrespectful, and I'm gonna say this, how disrespectful is it to go, you shut up and play? When I was coming up, to tell somebody to shut up was the most disrespectful thing you can do. And then to tell them what to do after they shut up, how more disrespectful can you be? But I digress. What I'm saying is, when we look at this situation and you have that intelligence and you have the ability to speak and you have these people who get to weigh in, I look at this thing as, how do we set a standard of understanding of the words or the commonality or the opportunity? I think it's about, what I know, injustice. Justice solves multiple problems. The moment there's a consequence for a wrong act for whoever commits it, it hesitates, stalls, or stifles the next wrong act. Because I don't care how much in your mind you feel rage for me, if you got something to lose and you know it because your partner did the same thing, you're not going to do that.
But justice is a long, winding, arcing road, because justice means we have to actually tear down and reconstruct in a manner that is just.
We have to agree that that's the problem. I think we're missing in the agreement of all of us. You know what I'm saying?
We are a long way away from justice.
Right, because we like to paint it with a color. It's not justice for blacks. It's if you're an authority figure and you're committing these crimes, there should be consequences. And then you'll stop shooting on our black people. And you'll stop beating up people in the street. Or you won't rape kids. Or your title won't give you that pass to commit these heinous crimes like that.
But also too, here's the thing. And this goes back to our initial idea of authority, title, and relationships. You know, you talk about killing unarmed people. You talk about all these, beating people up in the streets. At some point in time, it became acceptable.
Or maybe it started out as acceptable.
I don't think it ever started up acceptable. Well, we start looking at the history of policing.
Yeah.
It did start out that way. But at some point in time, it became acceptable to do it to certain populations and not to others.
Right.
And what happened is basically, again, people chose protectionism over justice.
Yep.
I want to feel protected because I've been fortunate enough to be on both sides of the law and live to tell the story. And I see both sides of the law don't mean something illegal, but I've been able to live in neighborhoods where I had law enforced on me, in neighborhoods where they protect and serve. So I've been on both ends of that spectrum, and I like the latter better than the former. And I think those are the things that we understand. And for me, yes, I love police because they do me a great service.
We got homeboys that are police.
Most definitely, people that I love that are serving, and I love it. but also understand because of my position, because of where I live, and because of how I carry myself, I don't have to fear that dynamic because there's an instant recognition between myself and what I'm going to be, what I'm going to say, hopefully, and there's value in this person. This person can actually maybe, just maybe, get me fired if I rough this person up.
Right, right.
Where on the other end, I'm out here, dressed differently, acting differently, being differently, and that should not be the qualifying statement.
Right.
That potentially that outcome would be completely different because they cannot articulate themselves, they can't defend themselves, and not present themselves in a manner that the other finds valuable.
And by no fault of their own, not having the experience to understand through perception. Totally
understanding power dynamics.
And then all that get understand.
Yes.
Man. Any other questions online, Grace?
He had 2 questions. Someone put, do you feel kids respond more to emotion or knowledge? And then that was from Jack Brown. And then Jim Browder put, we all know that being the leader of a team or corporation means more eyes on you. My question is, does that change the calculation of your approach, knowing you are the quote-unquote face of that unit or team?
That's a good question.
2 good questions.
It does, because people create your narrative according to your interactions. And that's actually it's not fair, but it's not unfair because you still have a standard. If you put yourself in a position, you don't have a standard to live up to the opinions of others, but there is a degree of respect that I think you should hold within that title that allows you to understand the standard of respect of the way you should conduct yourself. That part. What was the first? Who said something first?
Jack Brown. Do you feel kids respond more to emotion or to knowledge?
I have learned that kids respond best when they hold the mic. So if they ask questions, the best thing to do is not dismiss it, even if you don't have an answer, just like you were saying. But then create a question behind it to where they actually have input. Grown kids love to feel the value of input. The most important I felt in any meeting when I was a GA and friend looked at me and was like, Greg, what do you think? And I'm in there with coaches that's 20-year vets. You know what I'm talking about, Sean? And he looks at, like, what do you mean, what do I think? I'm the young cat at the table. But because of his authority, what I thought mattered at that moment. So when you give a kid an opportunity to hold the floor, regardless if they have anything to say, it don't matter, because kids aren't little adults. So give them the floor and let them know that their voice is important, but when you get it, you better have something to say. What are your closing thoughts, Mr. Worthing? What would you leave young athletes with, or parents in this time, or when you watch these college kids deal with everything inside and outside of the sport and the academics, and you're dealing with this kid who thinks he's going to go pro, and now everything is up in the air based on nobody knows the next move, or these parents who are concerned about their babies being in college? What words would you leave?
I would say this, that eventually there's going to come a divorce between you and your ball, whatever ball that is. And the reason I say divorce, because there's no reconciliation. No matter how much you want it, we're never getting back together.
It's not going to love you back.
It's never going to love you back.
And she's going to walk away with the next best thing.
He or it, whatever it may be.
Whatever it may be.
But also, too, that athletic identity for a culture is a real phenomenon. Meaning that when that person leaves, there's only a few people that get their numbers retired. Somebody else is wearing number 5. Somebody else wearing number 95. Somebody else wearing number 20.
Yeah.
And they're probably wearing it just as well, if not better than you did. And in your house, foreclosure is this. Meaning somebody else moved into your house, repainted, redecorated, and is living their best life, better life than you lived in that same house previously.
Take the check and roll it.
But you got to understand that basically that house, you got to explore other identities within your identity of being a student athlete or whatever role that you play. Because basically every identity, there's multiple places for you to go and vector into. And it's not just this role that people have constructed for you. You got to construct your own idea of what you want to be, how you want to be it, and what you want your future to be moving forward. Like for me, I never put all my eggs in the proverbial athletic basket. It was a means of conveyance for me, meaning that this was going to take me from my wanting point to my no longer needing point, meaning that athletics was my means of taking me from poverty and obscurity to a place where I could fund and build my dream appropriately. And that's exactly what I've done with that. And so what I would tell people all the time is this: explore every opportunity to explore yourself outside of your athletic realm and allow that to be the mechanism to make your dream come true versus that being your dream in particular. Because honestly, I played my last football game at the age of probably 27 or maybe 26, 27. And if I live to be 70 years old, there's 43 years between that time and there. What am I going to be doing for the rest of my life? Making it is the easy part. I always tell people that. Making it is the easy part. Making it to college, making it to pros is the easy part. Staying there and keeping what you get is the hard part. And that's the part that becomes impossible and forever shifts your dynamic in the wrong direction. Because there's nothing worse than having something and losing it and never being able to regain it.
Never being able to get it back.
That's the terrible thing.
Damn.
So, I mean, for me, explore identities that allow you to be more well-rounded and learn how to serve yourself well through a dream that is forever linked to new possibilities.
Can you follow that round face?
What? I prefer not to.
All right.
Speak on it, girl.
Well,
Don't let the man steal your joy.
no, I mean,
This is your joy.
This is your moment.
This is your moment. Shine out there, girl.
I mean, I got a lot from
You
that.
got
I
this
probably learned more from you than anybody else that came here. You and Chris, probably.
Don't compare me to Chris. I'm out here killing Chris.
Well, tremendous, man. I gotta have you back.
Thank you,
gotta
sir.
have you
Appreciate
back.
you.
I'm not even gonna try to follow that. I think that was outstanding. Hopefully people got something from it. I know I did, and I will have you back really, really soon. Thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it. Let's go out here, be better this week, and get some understanding. We will see you next Monday on Beyond the Noise.